Welcome to the Point Noted podcast with your host, Johnny B, and co-host who shows up whenever he wants to, former NFL player Rashad Barksdale. It's raw, unfiltered, and no topic is off limit. We talk sports, entertainment, culture, and a whole lot of random shit. Let's get to the point.
Point on the podcast, you're hanging out with your host, Johnny B. And on today's show, we talking UFC MMA. We have Farrah Hannoun on the show. Farrah, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Did I butcher your last name?
A little bit.
Sorry, how do you say it?
It's Hannoun, but you can go Hannoun. That's good.
Hannoun. I should have known. I should have known. That's Egyptian?
Actually, Palestinian origin, my last name.
Palestinian origin. Okay. Where are you based right now?
I live in Egypt, but I'm half Palestinian, half Moroccan, but live in Egypt.
Oh wow! How'd you make your way out there? Who was out there?
Oh, I'm born and raised in Egypt, so I've been here pretty much my whole life.
How's the COVID out there in Egypt?
It's okay. I think things have I don't even know numbers-wise if things have calmed down a little bit, but people are trying to get back to normal life. We're kind of seeing that everywhere. So businesses are operating again. But I don't, numbers-wise, they just don't publicly say much. Like they used to, I never even knew if the numbers were accurate or not. But in comparison maybe to the US and stuff, the numbers weren't as high, or Europe in the beginning. But they were still a little high. Just now, I don't know how accurate they really are. And I just feel like people are at a point where they stop being too careful, but at the same time, because they businesses just need to get back up and running, you know what I mean? So I feel like people are at a point where maybe they're trying to be a little bit cautious, but at the same time, a lot of people are just kind of living their lives and leaving it up to you of how careful you want to be.
Right. In a way, they're saying it's your life, so do as you wish with it. But yeah, so you were talking about COVID out there, and just how everybody's trying to get back into their life. I'm out here in New York, so it's. We're trying to get back slowly as well, but the fear everywhere is as soon as you get released to go back into doing normal things, the numbers are going to spike.
Exactly. That's the issue.
Right. Number goes up, everybody get reinfected again. And then, because it's going on in Texas right now where they have to actually shut down again, just because the numbers went up and it's kind of getting crazy out there. So everybody's a little worried, but hopefully this vaccination they're talking about can actually be the real deal.
Yeah, I hope so. Said by the end of the year or something, right?
Right. So how'd you get into covering MMA?
So basically, my brother kind of got me into it. He got me into MMA probably around 2009 or maybe 2008, something like that. So I was watching it. I actually play basketball, and I grew up watching basketball. That was my sport. I wanted to be a pro ball player. So a lot of my attention was focused on basketball for the longest time. But for some reason, I kind of knew that when I wasn't gonna become a pro athlete, that I wanted to do something related to sports. So I was thinking that I was gonna cover basketball. Then I don't know why I made a last second switch, because I felt like there were a lot of people that covered basketball and not enough at covering MMA. And I felt like I was starting to understand the sport and starting to appreciate the kind of work the athletes put in, especially that I used to watch and play soccer as well as a kid. So I watched a lot of sports, and I kind of got to see how these athletes train. And there was something about MMA. I felt like these guys don't get enough exposure. Maybe I could make a difference in this space. So I kind of made a last second switch to cover MMA.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you just said, too, with the coverage of the MMA fighters. There's definitely not enough coverage for the guys. You only get the coverage when you win, or when you fight, or when something bad happened. But then again, their sport, they only fight 3 times a year. So it's kind of hard to get a lot of attention, right? Most of these guys fight twice a year. Some fight maybe 3 times a year. Meanwhile, you have the basketball player and all the other guys that are doing, we've seen them 7 months out of the year on TV, right?
Exactly. And basketball, you have one bad game, you can turn it around and make everybody forget about it real quick, unless maybe you're LeBron James and they want to hate on you and only remember the bad stuff. But in general, basketball, you have one bad shooting night. If Curry goes 1 for 9 from the 3-point line, 2 days later, he can go make it up by draining 7 threes in the first quarter or something, and everyone will forget about it. With fighting, you lose, you get knocked out bad or something like that. You sit with it, unfortunately, for such a long time, or people will hold on to it. They'll start doubting you. And then if you're injured or you can't fight often, because sometimes like when you lose by knockout or something like that, you can't turn around as fast as you want to, like injuries and all that. People will hold on to it and you have to sit with that, and you don't get to make money in the meantime unless you're like a superstar and have sponsors. So it's a lot more difficult for them exposure wise. And then media sometimes won't want to talk to fighters that are coming off like bad losses again, unless they're a big name. So people start forgetting about these guys. So it's a lot more difficult for them to stay relevant than it is for like a basketball player, soccer player, football player, or any other sport.
See, I didn't know that part, that the losers don't really get a lot of coverage no more unless they're big time names. You would think every fight, especially if you understand how hard it is to get in that octagon and fight somebody. So win or lose, you still deserve that. You still deserve that airtime, right?
Yeah, of course. And I try not to be that person. That's one of the things that I always try. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person that will only talk to somebody if they're doing so well in their career and stuff like that. But then as soon as they lose, I completely forget about them. I try to talk to them throughout the year. And I don't want to be that journalist that only wants to talk to them or get information out of them when things are going well for them and they have a big name or they're doing things. I try to kind of talk to them or like try to set up an interview with them, even if they're coming off of a loss or two, and maybe they can talk about it if they're going through some stuff. Because a lot of times these fighters will be going through stuff, whether it's injuries that we don't know about or mental health problems, which has become a popular thing that a lot of fighters are opening up about lately, just because I don't know who started it, but someone would start talking about it, and then it would allow a lot of people to become comfortable to talk about it. So that's become a big topic. So it's good to talk to them as well, because they just go through a lot after a loss. So I try not to be that journalist that's only talking to a fighter that's on a big win streak or a hot prospect or anything like that. But it's just hard. Like, it's just unfortunate that a lot of times media will cover the massive superstars, and even if the prospects are not losing, they could have won like 4 in a row. But if they don't have a big personality, then most likely they're not going to get the same media attention as somebody that talks trash or whatnot.
Right. Do you find the reception different from obviously if you win, you had a talk. But do you find the reception different when you are trying to get an interview with the guys that just lost as well? I mean, are they eager to want to talk just to talk about it or keep their face out there, or do you find them much more reserved and saying, nah, maybe not now?
You know what? I think it depends on A, how well I know them, B, how they've lost. So obviously if they've like brutally gotten knocked out, I try not to, like, maybe I'll send a message, kind of like a support type of message, which most likely
Right.
doesn't get answered, but that's just me trying to be like the human part of me, showing that it's not
Right.
only about trying to get information out of them or using them for interviews and stuff. But yeah, I guess it depends. If
Right.
they go like radio silent on social media, then I kind of get the hint that they want some time off. So I try not to be overzealous. But if they are like active on social media and they post their like statement about their loss and this and that, then yeah, I get the feel that maybe it's okay to reach out. And sometimes
To
they
reach
agree,
out to them.
sometimes they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And speaking of mental health, you mentioned how, all the players probably have something to do, have something to share with mental health. And I feel like it's a thing that we don't address enough, and not just for athletes, but I feel like just as human in general, there has to be a conversation about mental health, about just getting that mental support and checkup and rest or relaxation, whatever it is. Do you find the fighters that actually being more supportive to the idea of actually having that conversation?
Yeah, I feel like a lot more fighters are starting to open up about it. Maybe I get the feel, I'm trying to like rewind back in my head of when fighters have gotten comfortable, but Tyson Fury, I think, was a big influence on a lot of athletes or a lot of people in general. When he
Right.
came out and talked about it, it was really big. And it was really big for combat sports athletes, especially. So when he was so open about everything, I think it surprised people. And he was such a success story. So we're seeing a lot more like UFC fighters and MMA fighters come out and talk about it, and people can relate. Like you said, you don't have to be a pro athlete, so you can relate. You listen to these stories and you realize that you might be going through similar things. And yeah, just I feel
Right.
like a lot of people are more encouraged, because it's not maybe they had the fear that would be frowned upon, or people would criticize it or think they were over exaggerating or being dramatic, but now it appears that a lot more people are comfortable to open up.
No, that's key. That's important. I think we have to keep talking about it. And somebody needs to talk to Kanye as well. Just he might be the leader in I need mental checkup. Kanye West probably the leader in that. By the way, your sound has kind of gone back in and out again, but I think we'll get through it.
All right.
Yeah. But how big is the MMA in Egypt right now?
Not really, to be honest. I think it's mainly because like they need that star, that big name to make an impact, even if it's on the regional scene. Like even in the MMA scene, there hasn't been that. Even in the Middle Eastern scene, there hasn't been that
Right.
Egyptian fighter that's made some noise. So I think that's been the biggest issue, because that's usually how it is. Like you've got someone to get behind, even if you don't understand the sport, because that's another thing. They don't really understand the sport of MMA too much. Like wrestling individually as a sport and boxing individually as a sport, I think is appreciated a little bit more, even jiu-jitsu on its own, but MMA, not really. So I feel like until an Egyptian fighter makes some sort of splash, even if it's not on a global scale, and they can get behind them and get to understand more about the sport, I like the gyms here are not developed enough. Like they still have long ways to go. There are other Arab countries that have done a lot better in terms of their gyms, hosting events and whatnot. But Egypt, especially out of all the Arab countries, I wouldn't even rank it in the top 10 in terms of the MMA scene or even the fighters.
Right. You mentioned other Arab countries that are doing better developing gyms, like where?
Jordan, for example, for sure, and they've got a lot of solid gyms. Yeah, they've hosted events, like even as part of Cage Warriors, which is a UK-based promotion. They've held shows in Jordan before, so they know what it's like to hold big. Even Conor McGregor fought in Jordan before, like years ago, maybe his third pro fight, I think. Yeah. A lot of fighters, a lot of. Jack Hermanson, who just fought last week, he fought in Jordan before. A lot of these guys have fought under the Cage Warriors banner in Jordan. And like Khamzat Chimaev, who everyone is very high on, who's fighting tomorrow for the second time in like 10 days. Yep, he fought in Jordan like last year. I covered his fight in Jordan. So a lot of guys have fought there before, and they've proven that they can host events in a grand scale. And obviously, the jiu-jitsu scene is massive in the UAE and in Abu Dhabi and Dubai as well. There are a lot of good gyms there. I mean, Darren Till's management is based in Dubai, and there's a Team Nogueira in Dubai. Obviously, Nogueira Brothers gyms, or it might be the Minotauro's gym only, but like there's a gym there in Munir Lazaz, who was the first Arab born and bred fighter to make it to the UFC. He trains at a Team Nogueira in Dubai. So those countries have definitely taken massive steps forward in terms of their interest in the sport. Saudi as well, they've got some really nice looking gyms as well. My brother used to work there and he told me. So those countries have Bahrain have got an organization called Brave Combat Federation based there, and Khamzat used to fight there. Munir fought there before. I'm trying to think who else. A few UFC fighters, even Johnny Walker fought part of Brave Combat Federation at one point. So they are taking the necessary steps to develop. I feel like Egypt, they just have long ways to go. They just need somebody to come in with kind of like the right business mind, the right amount of knowledge of the sport, and just try to whether build a gym or just kind of invest in something proper. But there's yet to be somebody.
Yeah. Hey, there's in Khamzat, by the way, I'm a big fan of his. It looks, it looks crazy, man. That man looks like he's going straight to the top. And I hadn't heard about him until, Jimmy was mentioning him, and I was talking to Jimmy, and he was like, yeah, Khamzat, yeah, man, Khamzat, man. I was like, who? And then I watched the fight. I was like, oh, wow, that man is crazy. And then he's fighting again 8 days later. He fought 8 days ago. Now he's about to fight again. And, that's good payday, right?
Yeah, and he's going to make history. Like, this is the fastest turnaround. And if he wins, and it's a weight class below as well, because he's a welterweight. So when he made his UFC debut, because he got the call late, so he fought at middleweight, but he's actually a welterweight. So he's turning around 10 days later to fight as a welterweight, which is his weight class. He did look a bit sunken in the weigh-ins, but it's pretty crazy because usually you balloon up after you make weight the first time. So he may have hit 185 pounds on the scale, but he probably ballooned up to maybe at least 195, 200 pounds. And then he has to cut from 200 to 170. Like, I'd love for someone to ask him about that, or if I could myself, about how much weight he actually had to cut to make 170. But pretty crazy. I mean, I've been very high on him, like on social media. I've been referring back to my old tweets. Like, I feel like I'm super smart because I called it from the start. So I covered his fights. Like he was. I covered 3 of his fights actually, I think, live around the Middle East. So and man, he finished everybody so freaking quickly. Like, I'd barely sit at my desk for 2 minutes and he's already like. So I knew straight away like that guy was special, and he trains with Alexander Gustafsson, so a really good gym in Sweden, and I kind of knew that he was gonna make a splash.
Yeah, and you definitely sound like you just love covering these fighters, man. That's great because you have a lot of people that just do the sport. You do coverage just to do it, but there's really no passion behind it. And I know I was watching your interview with Israel Adesanya, and I really enjoyed watching that. And you have a few articles out there that I also checked out. One, you mentioned the UFC needs to actually expand its search for fighters. The good, I had this conversation with Jimmy as well. I was like, look, even having a Nigerian background, I was like, I'm pretty sure we can go to Lagos right now and find 50 guys ready to fight for that money. And then you have Usman and Israel, and then you got Nangon from Cameroon and all these guys. Like, is the UFC really trying to make that one of the hotbeds for recruiting? And where else do you think they need to actually start looking at to get more fighters from where you can potentially find those gems?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, for sure, guys like Kamaru and Israel Adesanya and Ngannou, like, those guys are going to inspire the younger generation, because usually those countries, like, even in Northern Africa, like where I'm from, Morocco and stuff, like Morocco, we've got a very solid kickboxing background, a lot of kickboxing, like Badr Hari, and so, like, we've got a lot of really good kickboxers, but not MMA fighters. But people are realizing that MMA is where the money's at. You can make a lot of money in boxing, but only if you're a star. I think there's a big gap between the superstars and then the undercard fighters and stuff like that. But like in MMA, there's a lot of money to be made. So I feel like a lot of people are starting to make that transition. They come from certain backgrounds, whether it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu or kickboxing or whatever, and then they're transitioning to MMA. But yeah, I think, like, for sure, the rise of Adesanya and Usman and Ngannou and a few other guys like Sodiq Yusuff and stuff, like, those guys are for sure going to inspire a whole generation. But Ngannou opened the gym, I think, in Cameroon. So it's going to take steps like that. And actually, Fernand Lopez, who was Ngannou's coach in France, because Ngannou started out in Paris, training in Paris before he moved to Las Vegas. It's still his coach. I think he still goes back to France and trains with him. He started a new organization called Eris. And Eris is an Afro-French based promotion. And he's held, before COVID hit, because he had just started his promotion, he's held a show in Senegal, and I think, I don't know where else he had planned. So he's really trying to develop the talent there. So he's doing a good job of doing that. He just started, and then unfortunately COVID hit, and I think he's going to restart by the end of the year or maybe next year. So that's going to be an instrumental step, because then they can get these super young, raw guys that have raw talent, give them a platform, give them that experience, and then give them like a launch pad to the bigger organizations like the UFC.
Absolutely. That's the way to go, right? Find those young talent, breed them, train them. I mean, it's like in soccer, right? You get these young players, you put them in your academy, and you train them up, and then you can sell them back later for a lot of money. So there's nothing wrong with having kind of like a fighting academy like that, where all you do is just develop guys. So let's jump back to Laziz and Mike Perry, that beef. I just heard about that when I was reading your article. What's going on there? Is it just a matter of just wanting to fight somebody?
Honestly, because Munir is teammates with Darren Till. Teammates in the sense they're under the same management, and whenever Darren's in Dubai, he'll train with him at Team Nogueira. So they're good friends. They're close in that regard. So he's kind of taking. I think he knows what he's doing. Like Mike Perry is a big name. His record in the UFC isn't the greatest considering how popular he is. So that for him, he sees it as a stylistic matchup where he can excel. And he's flat out said it. He's like, I want to take all his hype. He flat out said It's not like he was sugarcoating it. So he knows why he wants to fight him. And it made sense because his debut was against a really tough guy in Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, who's been so dominant and really putting guys out violently. So that was a big win for him. And they did him no favors when they gave him Al-Hassan for his debut. Like, I'm being honest, like when I was talking to local media, I'm like, man, like I don't know what we did to them to give Munir such a debut, because like the whole point when Munir got signed, we were excited. We said, oh, finally someone who was born and bred in the region. Like, we want to show them that we have talent here. But then you give him Abdulrazak Al-Hassan, who when he wins, he knocks you out in like a minute. So I'm like, I really hope, like, I'm never going to like flat out say I want this guy to win, but I'm like, I really hope that he gets to show what he's about. Win, lose, or draw. I just wanted Munir to... Yeah, I wanted him to show what he's about, because if he went out there and got knocked out in 30 seconds, everyone's going to be like, yeah, well, you guys don't have any talent. Like, sit down. You guys are always talking about wanting to sign fighters from your region, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, why did they give him this matchup? It was such a tough matchup right off the bat, but he looked really good. And now he's trying to, like, take that momentum and run with it.
Right. So there's some good fight coming out this weekend. And from what I understand, this is the last week of the Fight Island, and hopefully Dana can bring another one up. But I think it's been fantastic having these twice a week fights that we've been seeing on TV, Wednesdays and then Saturday nights. Been great. I think if anybody has benefited from COVID, it's definitely UFC. Being the only sport to watch on TV. So we got the big fight with the Darren Till and I think Whitaker's fighting. Besides the big name, what other fights are you looking forward to? What are the fights that we're not really paying attention to that we probably should look at those fights?
Well, I mean, I'm interested to see how Gustafsson does at heavyweight. He moved up, I felt like, kind of like a new life, because he's challenged for the light heavyweight title 3 times already, and Jon Jones is still the champion, so it's not going to be easy for him to get a third crack at Jon Jones, especially that Jon Jones won the rematch pretty definitively. First fight was so close, some people thought Gustafsson won. Rematch, Jones kind of put a statement in that rematch, so highly doubt he gets a third fight. So he's kind of looking at new life, and I feel like Verdum's a good opportunity for him. Verdum's a big name. He's a former champion. So it's a big opportunity for Gustafsson to hit the rankings right away, because he's not in a position in his career to climb the rankings or anything like that. He's been in the sport for a while. He has a big name. So for him, it's like beating Verdum. He already can be in the top 10, probably one more fight and he could be a title shot. I mean, heavyweight isn't that deep of a division. So it's pretty easy for guys to climb. Like Jairzinho Rozenstruik, when he fought Ngannou, he fought like two guys or something, and then he fought Ngannou. Had he beat Ngannou, he would have gotten the title shot, and that would have been one of the fastest rises probably in the history of the sport. So there is that potential at heavyweight to climb. So curious to see how Gustafsson does at heavyweight. I think I'm trying to think of like a fight that's flying under the radar or that people are probably not talking about. I'd say maybe, obviously I'm excited to see what Khamzat does if he's able to recreate his dominance. And then Alex Oliveira and Peter Sabota is probably going to be a wild fight. I mean, Alex Oliveira is always fun to watch, always brings it. Like he'll fight so aggressively and so hard that I wouldn't even say his cardio is bad. I think it's just because he puts it all on the line every single time he fights. He's been part of some big wars. So Peter Sabota is a good striker as well. So I expect that to be a really, really fun fight. Paul Craig got pretty, and Antigulov, like they got pretty testy at the weigh-ins, like in their face-off. I don't know if that means the fight itself will deliver, because sometimes they get all testy and then the fight doesn't live up to it. Drama, yeah. I feel like that's just to get people to tune in. But I'd say my like sleeper fight of the night will probably be Alex Oliveira and Peter Sabota.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna mark that down. I'll put my money on that fight. And if I lose, I'm tweeting you. I say, hey, I want my money back, Farrah.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Hey, are we gonna see Jon Jones or Conor fight again this year?
I don't know. I don't think Connor, they will use him without a crowd because they make so much money out of him, like ticket sales and stuff. Like not only the
Right.
pay-per-view, but like the ticket sales. Like Connor is such a money-generating machine that
Right.
especially that he's sitting out right now and he's being very picky. So the UFC don't even care to entertain his supposed retirement because anyway they know they're gonna lose a ton of money. Because like it's like what
Right.
if Connor fights, like whether Justin Gaethje or whatever, and loses.
Yeah.
Especially because people weren't really crediting his win over Cowboy, and then before that he's coming off with a loss to Habib. So if he loses to Justin Gaethje or whoever he were to fight, and it's without a crowd, like if they're not even going to capitalize, and Connor decides to go away, or people don't start looking at him as that star again, like if he loses a bit of his
Right.
star power, like the UFC are losing. So right now they're like, all right, Connor, you're being a little difficult. You want Justin Gaethje, but Justin Gaethje is fighting Habib, and you aren't really interested in any other fight. Just sit out anyway because we want to make money out of you. So better wait until
Right.
2021 at least anyway, where
Right.
they could actually have the live gate and make all those big numbers.
Right. What about Jones? Jon Jones.
He's, I feel like he'll solve his issues with the UFC. I just think
They always
again,
do, right?
what's that?
I said they always do, right?
They always do, yeah. Because at the end of the day, they want to fight. I think that's what it comes down to ultimately. Kind of like Jorge Masvidal. Like they can sit out as long as they want, but they always that competitor in them, they get that itch to compete. And sometimes it just takes them watching the division move on, or watching certain guys fight, or a new star on the rise that everyone thinks like, oh, this guy will beat Jones, and Jones will probably be at home watching like, no, this guy can't beat me. I'll fight him. I'll show you, like
Right.
that kind of thing. So I'm sure like
Right.
sitting back, they'll only sit back for so long because Jones still has a lot left in him. It's not like he's in his latter years or anything like that. So I think at some point it's because there isn't that massive name in the division where he could
Right.
make money off of in terms of pay-per-view. So that's why he's sitting back like whatever. He doesn't really care because like Dominic Reyes wants a rematch. Thiago Santos wants a rematch. Jan Blachowicz should be the number one contender, but he's not a massive name or a massive
Right.
superstar where he could make big pay-per-view numbers with. So he's probably thinking like, I'll fight him, but right now I want a pay raise. I wanted to move up and fight Francis Ngannou, and they didn't want to pay me. So unless I feel like the UFC won't listen to him in terms of that, unless they get really desperate and they're scrambling for a main event, kind of like what happened with Jorge Masvidal, where they lost Gilbert
Uh-huh.
Burns, and then they're
Right.
like, you know what, we need a replacement. So like, fine, Jorge, we'll meet what you want because we need you now.
Right.
So
We
that
need you
kind of
now.
thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Now that fight would be great though if you can get Jones to move up and fight Ngannou. That would be a great fight.
That would be massive because like there are always like when you talk about the greatest of all time or whatever, there are always these questions of, okay, you've done so much, you've defended your title so many times, this and that. The whole moving up a weight class is like because you've done everything, that remains to be the question mark. And like that's why George St Pierre came back 4 years later. Like he felt like he did everything he needed to do, but then he
Right.
capitalized on opportunity when he saw Michael Bisping win. He felt like that was a stylistic matchup he could win. So he's like, Bisping's the champion. I think I can beat him. I'll come
Right.
back. And now he's
Now
added a
fight him.
second belt. Yeah, and he's added a second belt to his name. If there was any doubt that people had that he was the greatest, he did that too, kind of to strengthen his argument as the greatest of all time. So I feel like with Jones, because Ngannou is the scariest knockout artist in the division. But I think it will be cooler if he waits until Ngannou fights the winner, and if Stipe beats Ngannou, or if DC, I think DC retires. That's my opinion. That's what he
Right.
said.
He
So
has to.
if
He
DC
has to,
wins and he
right?
retires, yeah. If DC wins and he retires and the belt becomes vacant, I think they do Stipe Ngannou too for the vacant belt. And if Jon Jones fights the winner, because Stipe is a big name, Ngannou's a big name, I think he should do that and try to win a belt out of it. I was surprised that he wants to fight Ngannou without a belt. Like, why would you want to do that? Take a risky matchup and not even have the reward of adding a belt, because a lot
Championship,
of people
right?
look at Ngannou like a lot of people look at Ngannou like an uncrowned champion. So why not wait until Ngannou gets his title shot, and then win or lose, whoever's the champion. Stipe is a big name. Obviously, if he does the trilogy with DC, that would be massive. And Stipe is a big name. So those are three big names that you could make a lot of money from fighting against, and you can win a belt as well. So I think he should just wait for that scenario to play out.
Yeah, and there's a good chance they're just talking just to stay in the limelight, right? Just to put the names out there to say, hey, I'm still here. But like you said, those guys are very calculated, so they're going to wait for the right matchup and for the right money.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of them do that to just stay in the headlines. That's 100%. Because if you're not fighting, people are not going to talk about you. So how do you get people to
Right.
talk about you? And I admit, like I'm all for it. Obviously, as a journalist, when you think you're going to interview someone, you're going to enjoy the interviews where people actually have an opinion, as opposed to the people that
Right.
go, "Oh, we'll see what happens." I don't know, that kind of thing. So yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's
Like,
trash.
uh,
Yeah, that's trash. Yeah. I had a guy up here, and the whole conversation was like, dude, yeah, no. I still haven't pushed that interview up yet. I'm like, no. That that was putting me to sleep completely. Yeah, I was like, how's the manager doing? What are you doing?
I get
So
you. I get.
but so you mentioned being a big passionate basketball fan and player. And the NBA is back. Do you have a winner? What do you think is winning it all?
Uh, I'll say the Lakers. I mean, I like LeBron a lot. Like growing up, I was a Phoenix Suns fan for the longest time, and you can call me disloyal or whatever you want. Like I'm not from Phoenix, Arizona, so when the team got when the team got disassembled, it was like unrecognizable for me, and I tried to
Right.
stay supporting the organization. I just couldn't. It was unrecognizable to me, to be honest, because
Yeah.
like at least with soccer or whatever, like you'd have certain pieces. Like I'm a Real Madrid fan, so a lot of the pieces were the
Right.
same. If it wasn't the players, it was the management or whatever. Like the Phoenix
Right.
Suns organization just completely changed from the coaches to the players. It was almost like another team. So after that, I never had like a set. Like I've always loved LeBron James because I was hearing about him from high school. So I was watching his high school games. I was when he did when he like obviously when he was playing for the Cavs, I was still a Suns fan. I wasn't a Cavs fan, but I was just intrigued by LeBron. So I would want to like people doubt him all the time, so I wouldn't mind him winning a title. Even though I feel like if he does, because this season has been altered and changed, then they're gonna say like it's not a real championship. I'm sure there'll be someone saying something, but I think the Lakers have a good shot.
Yeah, I feel like initially the chirping and noise around whoever wins it this year was that there's an asterisk there, but I don't think so. I think after seeing them back on TV now, no one's really talking about it no more. About if you win it, you're the winner, such and such. It's probably difficult now, much more harder now because you're playing on neutral ground, no fans or nothing. So it's really as open now as anybody's game. But I'm definitely going with the Bucks. Giannis is the man, and then I got the Clippers and the Bucks in the final. So those are my choice, and I think I'm not sure who wins it between the Clippers and the Bucks, but that's my pick. But I'm kind of leaning towards the Bucks and the Clippers to win it. I don't know. I like both of those teams.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, I actually wear Giannis's basketball shoes, so I should be somehow like rooting for him. Those are
Oh,
the
see,
shoes I
there you
wear right
go.
now. So,
You don't even have LeBron's on. Come on, Farrah.
yeah, I know. Look, I'll be fair. The LeBrons are a little too bulky for me. I'm not gonna lie. So that's the only reason I don't wear them.
Right,
But yeah, like that would be nice. I'd be down for the Bucks too. I'm not gonna lie.
right. And you said HALA Madrid earlier. You're a Madrid fan, huh?
Yeah, for a very long time. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How'd you feel when CR7 left?
Oh man. It was so. The thing is, it's like I get why he did it. But
Right,
man, like the run they had, like with the Champions League and stuff, I get it because you don't want to stick around and start losing those Champion League
right,
uh like titles because like it was such a historic run and an unpredictable run. Like there was a lot of
right.
asterisks, I guess you can say, because like Barca fans get all angry. But just that run, like even just if you go back from like Ramos's header to tie against Atletico, and even facing Atletico again, where Ramos or actually Real had hit first and then they equalized. It was so much drama, but it was so much fun because my team wins. Like I hate it when the drama's involved. Like I watched the Phoenix Suns lose to San Antonio, to Dallas, and have my heart broken like time
Oh,
and time
man.
again. Other than
Oh, I'm
other
sorry.
than the three, other than them like coming back from 3-1. Like other than them
Right.
coming back from down 3-1 against the Lakers, I've watched them
Uh-huh.
like lose and not win the championship. So I'm like and
Right.
watch like people make buzzer beaters against Suns and stuff like that. So like to watch like to be on the side where my team is actually like
Winning.
narrowly
Right.
edging these other guys, and yeah, exactly. So that was nice. So it's cool. I mean, Real won the league this year. Funny enough, like without Ronaldo. So but I
Yeah.
just feel like Messi is deflated. He doesn't have that rivalry that kept his blood flowing. I feel like he's a little deflated.
Oh, I agree. I think it's deflated, but I think his team also doesn't have an edge no more. I think, Suarez got the edge, but he was injured in and out. But I think they needed someone that just have an edge to him, that just gets mad and gets angry. They had it with Neymar. He's gone. They just don't have an edge. Like they need, like Real Madrid's guys are down the sideline, right? It just doesn't get cooler than that. But then you got Ramos is always crazy, right? And then you
Yeah.
got Casemiro in the middle that's always fouling people. I mean, they got just personalities all over the pitch. So it helps to get out there and just fight. And I just feel like Barca doesn't really have that. And at Messi's age, man, he just needs someone to just come in and just like help.
I'm with you 100%. I 100% agree. I just feel like, and I agree with you with Neymar because I feel like that's a guy that used to get a lot of hate while he was in Barcelona. And I remember there was a
Right,
time, I can't remember which season it was, when Messi got injured and Neymar really carried the team on his back. I'm trying to remember, this was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago or something. He really put the
right,
team on his
early, yep,
back. And yeah, and a lot of people expected and Barca's record was at one point like 9-1 or 10-1 or something like that. And Neymar was really putting the team on his back because, like you said, he's a passionate guy. And obviously that legendary comeback against PSG. So, like, that's a guy that plays with passion, even if they
right,
call him, like, dramatic when he gets fouled and stuff like that. But I'll take that
yeah,
10 out of 10 times. Like, even Ramos's stupidity, if you want to call it, and his
right,
constant red cards and stuff like that. But I'll take that passion over someone I feel
right.
like doesn't want to win.
And you talking about legendary comeback, and the only thing I can think of is when my team goes down to PFG, uh, Man United, and won that Champions League. Now
Yeah.
that's a comeback. I'm not sure what Madrid comeback you're talking about. I have no idea. I don't really care for Madrid, but that Manchester United comeback. Now I think I almost cried when it happened. I was just screaming at the top of my lungs.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple. Well, I'm trying to remember. Was it Chelsea as well? Had a crazy comeback. Was it Chelsea?
Yep. No,
Yeah, yeah.
Liverpool against Barcelona.
Well,
Right.
yeah, that yeah, yeah. I was talking about way back. I can't remember who it was against, but but yeah, there's been like Real Madrid. I remember when Ronaldo helped Real Madrid mount a comeback. I think it was against
Yep.
Wolfsburg in
Hmm.
the semifinals as well. They
Right.
needed to win 3-0, and he had a hat trick, which allowed them to advance. So yeah, there's those are the kind of moments. I'm with you. Like those are the kind of moments that just like funny enough. I'll tell you a story. I remember I was on a flight to Dubai, and I was sitting next to this guy who was looking at, like, I was watching a Real Madrid championship documentary kind of thing, like where it just showed all their championship run. And I got
Uh-huh.
emotional while watching it. I didn't
Oh
notice I
my
was getting
God.
emotional, so I guess I got a little teary eyed or something. And the guy next to me was looking at me like I was like I'm a freak, and I could tell from the side of my eye that he was looking at me, and I'm like,
Oh
all right, I'm
man.
gonna ignore him because I'm like, why is he looking at me like that? Does he want something? And then he continued to
Right.
look at me. So then eventually I took my earphones out because I'm like, this is a bit weird. And he's like, look at me. He's like, I've never seen like a girl so passionate about football. And I just started laughing because
Oh my God.
I didn't realize I was like getting super emotional watching it. So I just started like, when they put the music and they get
Yep.
everybody
The
like
Champions
happy.
League music.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So he was
Yep.
just like laughing at me.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. Great story right there. I mean, you know, I tell people all the time, soccer fans are the best. We're passionate. I mean, when my team loses, I watch basketball all day long. I watch NFL. I watch every sport. But I look forward to Saturday morning to watching my team play. And when they lose, literally, I have a shitty day, shitty weekend every time we lose. And nothing else does that to me. But when I get up at 6, 7 in the morning to watch Man U play, and we play like shit or we just lose it, I am just in the pissy mood the rest of the weekend. So, and it's like that all over the world for soccer fans. It's just like we look forward to it, and if it doesn't go right, we just mad.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Like my mother hated being around me when I'd watch Real Madrid games because then if they lose that she'd like if she'd come talk to me while it was happening, or like they were down 0-1 or something, she'd get really angry at me. So she'd just completely leave me alone because she'd hate my attitude.
Right, exactly. Hey, Farrah, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me. I really had fun. I enjoyed it. Truly appreciate you taking the time out.
I appreciate it. I had a great time as well. Thank you so much for having me.
We'll do it again. Thank you.
For sure, definitely. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Point Noted Podcast with Johnny B and Rashad B. Follow us on Twitter at PTNoted and Instagram at Point Noted. Hit the subscribe and follow button to follow us and check out more episodes of us talking a whole bunch of shit. You've been noted.